Hey everyone, welcome to InfoSec Train. So welcome back to another video series for the new CCSP exam starting from August first week. So in the last lecture we have covered about the first few topics in the domain 1 for the new exam pattern, and today we'll be covering the rest of the key topics for the domain 1. I'm Krish. If you want to know more about my profile, you can visit my LinkedIn. So in this first domain team, like in fact, they have made some changes, right? Like they have added some more topics, they have reshuffled some topics and all, and in fact, they have made it more optimized for the modern cloud infrastructure and all. So these are the two topics which we are discussing today. One is the security hygiene, and the second one is the cloud design patterns. So first of all, let's go through the security hygiene. So you may be thinking that, okay, this topic is already there, like in different forms. This topic is already there in the previous curriculum also. Of course, yes, but still they have made it in a more specific way, in a more important way in the new curriculum. I'll tell you the reason for that. So when you say the word security hygiene team, the first and the most important point we have to keep in mind is that it's a set of practices that the organizations and individuals perform regularly to maintain the health and security of various factors. See, what is cybersecurity? When you say cybersecurity, you know that it's a practice of protecting your systems and data and all your assets, or we can say the digital assets is what we call a cybersecurity, right? But at the same time, the security hygiene is a practice we follow, a preventive practice we can say we follow in a day-to-day basis to ensure that we have a lower level of risk, or we basically optimize the security hygiene, and to make sure we minimize the risk of various security challenges is actually what we call as a security hygiene. See, the first point is that there are a lot of gaps we have when talking about security. Like for example, let's say there is a lot of old software versions we use. Like for example, if there are some people in our company, or maybe a part of our company, who use old software versions, which is basically vulnerable for various kind of challenges, then what if we don't have a proper password policy and basically people go for weak passwords or maybe weak authentication methods? What if we don't protect our data properly? Like I can give you an example. Now we have a data. So how do you protect your data? So you to protect your data based on various factors, like you protect it based on the sensitivity of data, right? You have a sensitivity and value for your business, and based on that you protect your data. So what if we don't properly classify, or what if we don't protect our data? Or what if there is any kind of unsafe emails, or basically what if people attach unwanted contents to your email, etc. Like this, we have many challenges when you basically go to a organization. So that is why the security hygiene is a very important factor. See, what is the goal of security hygiene? See, it's basically more of a preventive approach. Like for example, we make password policies, we make proper asset inventories, we use proper encryption mechanisms, we create a proper baseline for all these things. What is the goal of all these things? To make sure that we have a proper secure infrastructure and secure IT operations without making any challenges because of negligence. So one more thing I want to tell you is that we have a word called as policies, right? When you talk about security, or when you talk about the governance, we always have a word called as policies. So why do you create a policy? So governance is a mandate process for our organization, right? So how do you to implement governance? If you want to implement governance, the key to have a proper governance to design proper policies, right? So like this, we make various mechanisms for security hygiene also. I'll give you some example for the security hygiene best practices. Like one of the key factors, we have a password hygiene. So basically, we create a password policy there to make sure that the passwords are properly changed, and we use a strong passwords. We use a multi-factor authentication. Like this, a lot of things are basically involved as a part of the password hygiene. Like this, we have something called as a patching. See, patching is a most important factor either in the on-premises or cloud also. I'll give an example. Now let's assume that we know that there is an application we are using, and for that particular application we are using, there is a new patch released which is addressing a particular kind of vulnerability. So if you know that there is a new patch released, and basically if you don't do that patching in your company, that means you're accepting the risk which that particular patch is addressing, right? So patching is a very important factor. It's very critical to ensure that you get notified regarding all the patches and updates for all the products you use in your organization, plus you install them, you test them properly and install them as in a proper timely basis to address the concerns and challenges. So it's very important to have a patching baseline and automated patching process, and that's a very important thing. Now, like this, we have something called as security softwares. Like we have to make sure that we use proper security softwares like antivirus, like some kind of anti-malware softwares, firewalls. Then we have a DLP, DRM, like use proper solutions. That's actually a very important thing. Then we have a proper encryption, like make sure we have a proper encryption we are following, like for data at rest, data in motion, data in transit. Like this, all these things are very important for our organization. So all the best practices which we follow for our security, it can be anything like for encryption, for data security, for patch management, for password, or maybe for creating a baseline. For all these things, it's actually that's what we call as a security hygiene. And in fact, there is one more word I want to stress. There is a word called as a baseline. As a part of security hygiene, we have a word called as a baseline. So what is a baseline? So we create a proper benchmarks, or we create proper checklist, or we define the proper objectives to make sure that we are following the proper best practices, or we are following the proper systematic way of approaching things. That's what we call as a baselining. So basically all these things come under the practice of this security hygiene. In fact, it's basically important on premises as well as cloud also. Like I cannot say that okay, in cloud we have some much more specification, or on premises we have much more specification. Even if we have some small difference in the way we do things, but end of the day, it's very important to maintain the proper security hygiene. And the most important thing in the cloud platform is that if you go to a cloud platform, definitely the same concerns apply in the cloud as well. But the only advantage is that certain factors we are moving to the cloud service provider. Like for example, the security of the physical security of the infrastructure and those kind of things. But still, the data security and compliance, the liability of data security and all these things will come to you only, right? So security hygiene is a very important factor which we have to understand. That is why in fact they have made this topic a key in the new exam pattern. The next key topic which I have seen for the CCSP examination is the team. They have talked about various cloud frameworks and all. They wanted to talk about various kind of cloud frameworks, or in fact they want to talk about various cloud design patterns like the SAN security principles, the CSA enterprise architecture, the WellArchitected framework, etc. So I want to give you a key idea on what is a WellArchitected framework. So to ensure that you are able to work effectively in the cloud platform, to ensure that we basically make a cloud friendly nature for all our factors, there is a well-architected framework for the cloud platform, and it's customized by different vendors like AWS, Azure, etc. This is generic way I'm telling you. So the well-architected framework is basically divided into 6 areas. One is operational excellence, then we have a security, then we have a reliability, then we have a performance efficiency, then we have a cost optimization, and we have a sustainability. So when you say the word operational excellence, what do you mean by that? See, it's focused on running and monitoring your systems. And what do you mean by security? Security is basically focused on protecting your information, assets, and systems. And what is reliability? You focus on ensuring your workloads are performing as expected. And what is a performance efficiency? It's basically focused on efficient use of your IT resources, like ensure we are able to do it or utilize it much more effectively. Then we have a cost optimization. See, when moving to the cloud platform, the biggest factor that I have seen people always say is that cloud can bring us cost benefit. But trust me, team, if you don't know the proper governance or proper management of cloud platform, or how do I choose proper service and all, definitely it's a very important challenge for us to basically have a proper cost effectiveness. And finally, we have something called as a sustainability. So what is sustainability, team? When you say the word sustainability, it means that it's actually talking about like, how can I basically ensure I can basically, have a proper cloud operation, or basically how do I have how do I basically focus on the various factors which can impact our cloud platform. All these things are basically part of the well-architected framework. In fact, this is a very important topic which we have to refer, because all these are the key concerns of our cloud platform. Like maybe I can just give you some examples. When you talk about operational excellence, we have to always focus on more things like infrastructure as a code, etc. And I want to make sure I can make small reversible changes rather than going for larger changes. Like this, I can basically go for multiple scenarios. When talking about security, we have to make sure there is a proper baseline for security. We must have to make sure there is a proper logging and monitoring for all the activities. We must be able to apply security in every aspect of the cloud platform. In fact, everything. Then we must be able to automate the security. Automation is a key in the cloud platform nowadays. Protecting your data, trust and transit. Like this, all these things. When talking about reliability, you have to make sure that there must be a proper BCDF strategy. We have to make sure we must have an automated failure recovery option. Like we must be able to make sure we can test our recovery mechanisms like this. Like this, we have different mechanisms for securing or ensuring the integrity, security, and various factors of the cloud platform. That's what we call as a well-architected framework. And finally, we have something called as a CSA enterprise architecture. See, when you say enterprise architecture, it's actually a methodology. We can say it's a methodology and various cloud tools we use to ensure that we can have a proper, we can have a proper cloud adoption. We can make sure that we are able to get the proper capabilities of the cloud platform to ensure the proper security in every level. Like I can give an example. When you go to a on-premise or enterprise scenario, you have a lot of frameworks and standards apply like PCDSS, HIPAA, GDPR, etc. So how do I basically implement this in the cloud platform? How can I basically map this to the cloud principles or cloud strategy? So all these things are basically a very important factor when talking about the cloud platform. So these are the few topics which I felt they have added specifically new in the new curriculum for CCSP in domain 1. So if you have some doubts or queries, team, you can drop in the comment box below. Thank you so much. This is Krish. Bye. Thank you.